next contestant, Eddie Lippett. Challenges are victories patiently waiting on you. Challenges are victories patiently waiting on you, Eddie Lippett.
Dealing with racial anxiety is unavoidable when you're black and you're growing up in the South. I'm a black man, but I didn't even know I was black until the 2nd grade. I went to Alexander D. Henderson Prep School, one of the finest prep schools in all of Boca Raton, Florida. My best friends were Elke and Eric Feinberg. They were Jewish. I didn't know it at the time. To me, I was just like them, or at least I wanted to be. After all, they celebrated Christmas longer than everybody else, and they got a whole bunch of money when they turned 13. As a kid, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Looking back on my childhood, almost all of my friends were Jewish. But I didn't see race, religion, or color. They loved me, and I loved them in return, and all was as it should be. But not for long. Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and anyone who's experienced personal challenges in their life. Today we'll talk about those challenges and how oftentimes our biggest challenges can be our greatest victories. Now in 1st and 2nd grade at Alexander D. Henderson Prep School, all was fine. That's where I began to develop my identity, where I began to learn who I was. My mom was a single parent, a brilliant woman who was focused on her career, and that career required us to travel. The first relocation came in 1979. I was in the 2nd grade. We relocated to a city called Roswell, Georgia. That's the South. I'll never forget my first day of school. When I arrived home, I walked straight upstairs to my bedroom and closed the door behind me. It didn't take long for my mother to realize that that was out of character for me. So shortly thereafter, she followed me up the stairs, opened my bedroom door, where she found her only child laying on the bed, curled up, crying. I'll never forget that day. She looked down at me and she said, "Son, what's wrong?" And I looked up at her and I said, "Mom." And I told her what was wrong. That day, she directed me to the dictionary to define a word I had not known before. And as I looked through the dictionary to find the word, when I found it, I read the definition aloud. An ignorant person? But Mom, why would they call me that? Well, son, they obviously don't know. They must be ignorant. That next morning, I woke up with the quiet confidence that a child can only receive from spending the night in his mother's arms. I walked into the house that day with my head held high, ready to attack the day. But by the end of the day, my mom had received a call from the principal saying, "Miss Lippett, get down here immediately and pick up your son." My mom rushed to the school that day. When she met with the principal told her that the teacher was furious when she overheard Eddie calling some of his fellow classmates ignorant. The teacher didn't appreciate it, the students didn't either, and apparently the principal didn't. That day, I lost my childlike eyes and perspective to race and color. And I'd like to say I didn't learn that lesson over and over again, but unfortunately, I did. But each time I learned that lesson, I realized that what my mother said was true. They really didn't know me. They had absolutely no idea that I was actually a white guy. Trapped in a black guy body. And I don't know why they didn't realize it, because it was incredibly apparent to all of the black people. Fast forward to my 9th grade year, my first opportunity to go to a predominantly black school. Picture this, me, all 5'8", 85 pounds, braces, and triple thick bifocals. Not to mention the same size head that I have on my body today as a grown man. Now, we heard a speech about vulnerability. This made me vulnerable, and it was not voluntary. Do you know what I realized my 9th grade year? I realized that I was as much an outcast amongst my 9th grade peers as I was amongst my 2nd grade classmates. By my senior year, though, braces came off, glasses came off, and I started to grow into this head. As you can see, I'm still working on that. I also realized I had another talent, and that was the ability to weave in and out of social circles rather effortlessly. A skill that served me well in college, where I graduated with honors, and then on to my professional career, where I led 2 sales teams to national recognition. But it's times like this when I look back and I ask myself, how would my life have been different if I was only exposed to people with similar backgrounds as me? If I had learned at an early age that racial tension crosses racial boundaries and goes both ways? How would my life have changed if I had succumbed to what others thought I should look, think, or act like? If I had allowed others to define my interests based on what they thought was cool? Instead, these painful experiences empowered me to grow stronger in my ability to see no color, to accept myself beyond others' affirmations, and to understand that failure pulls you one step closer to success. But this is my story. These are my experiences. What are yours? I know that each of us in this room today is experiencing challenges in our life right now. But what if today, right now, we began to understand that every challenge that we're facing in our life, no matter how painful, is actually an enriching experience? What if today, right now, we began to understand that every challenge that we're facing in our life is actually a victory, patiently waiting on us? Madam Contest Master.